Hi, I'm Darshi. I wanted to talk about Scourge. Recently I made a healer tier list video about player versus environment, PvE specifically, raids, strikes, fractals, and so on. I broke down the performance of different healers compared to each other in that environment, and I had a number of people comment on that afterward. There was a consistent through line with them, though. I had people disagreeing with my placement of Scourge more than anything else. And I had this person. So I put Scourge into B tier. I think Scourge is perfectly balanced. It's going to be able to perform well on just about any encounter it's brought into, but I think it's not as strong, not as centralizing as some of the other choices you could make for a healer, placed further above it. And I'd like to sort of explore that a little bit more, explain why I put it where I have. First, I wanted to talk about its strengths, though. What gets it up to here? Scourge. Scourge provides a lot of barrier. A lot of Scourge skills, your F1, F3, F5, some of your utilities, all provide barrier to the team. You can get enough to hit the barrier cap. All your teammates, whatever half of their HP is, that's the highest amount of barrier you can give them, and on most of your teammates, it's actually possible to hit that. So you're able to prevent damage before it occurs. If you know where it's going to occur, this is actually a pretty good strength. Also, anytime you provide barrier, or with a number of other effects, you can remove conditions off of teammates. You're doing a very, very good job of that. You will remove them on accident most of the time. This is very strong. It's happening very frequently. And if teammates go down, Scourge is one of the better healers at managing that. In the past, it was a lot stronger. They've nerfed Transfusion twice in this regard specifically, although I consider Transfusion to be a better trait now than it used to be, but whatever. You still have Signet of Undeath. Signet of Undeath is a long-range, very quick, instantaneous revive for somebody. And you will almost always be able to pay the health cost to do it. Traded Well of Blood is also a strong resurrect, and you have a minor trait that just prevents life loss while down, so you have more time to deal with that, and non-instant revives are stronger if you're around. Scourge also is just very survivable on its own. Necromancer healing generally will heal you more than your teammates for a number of things. There's traits that increase the healing you receive. There are skills that heal you more than your teammates. Dagger 2 is probably the biggest of these. And you just have a big health pool. Toughness matters a lot, especially because that big health pool and barrier both get to benefit from it. You can have a lot of damage you are allowed to take before downing as a necromancer. Mobility is also pretty good. You have a number of things that function as teleports, and function really well for taking mechanics off group especially, or getting to a specific place quickly. Fleshworm is a staple of Scourge play on Doom for a number of reasons. This is one of them. And while playing a heal Scourge, you'll notice the life force management of the build is effectively done for you. It's positive. You have a number of traits or effects that are just granting more life force than you know what to do with or could possibly spend. It is very good at that. If things are dying in the fight, it is already solved for you. If they're not, just dagger auto the boss and you're fine. These are all things that lend to it being just effective across the board at what it wants to do. But one of the biggest things that I think works for Scourge is its ease of use. Scourge is very easy to play at a competent level, even if you're just picking it up. The skills do good things, their uses are obvious and spelled out for you. They're all either reactive or they're proactive. Desiccate or Torch 5, for example. Actually, Torch 5 is a poor example, my bad. So Desiccate, it gives boons, it gives life force. You want to hit that constantly because you need boons and life force. Your F1, it gives boons, it gives barrier, You want to hit that because it gives boons a barrier and gives you bonus stats as long as you have a shade up. Your F3, it's barrier. You want to use that proactively before damage occurs or to keep your boons up. Skills like your Golem Charge are reactive. You want to use those because a break bar showed up. Your Well of Blood, you want to use that to heal people. It's a reactive skill. In other words, the execution of the build is simple. What you want to do is kind of already spelled out. There's not a lot of tech or things you need to know, complicated things to understand in order to make it work. It just works. Press all of these buttons, and you're probably fine. Except for Signet of Undeath. You want to wait for someone to down for that, right? If you're new at healing, Scourge will allow you to grant regen, protection, alacrity. You can do all of these. They just come out of the build by pressing buttons in basically any makeup. It is not difficult to do those. You will also grant Might, Fury, Swiftness, as long as you have built the build correctly. I will be providing a link to the Snowcrow's page in the description. That is how you want to build the build, generally. Healing and Barrier are enough for your team as long as you are hitting the buttons on the build. A Heal Scourge will have enough overall healing to get through any raid encounter, as long as your team is not doing something very, very, very dumb. Condition Cleanse just comes out for free just by hitting barrier skills. Survivability is there if you need more. Toughness gear is there. There are a small number of swappable build pieces, meaning that it is pretty easy to swap your build into whatever fight you need to be in. If you're at Deimos, you need a Serpent Siphon for Aegis. If you're at Adina, you need a Corrosive Poison Cloud for projectile destruction. Simple. These are good things for a build to have. Very good things for a build to have. It is going to make it feel strong. It is going to make it feel effective for anyone stepping into it. But there is more under the hood to look at. And this is the part where I want to talk about. I'm not a Scourge hater. I play Scourge quite a bit. I try to play every healer in the game roughly equally. I do have some favoritism, but I get around to them all. Usually over the course of like a few weeks, I've played them all and I'll go through them all again. I like Scourge. I think it plays nicely. I think it's fun. The buttons feel fun to press. And also, I mean, I care enough about my Scourge, I wrote a story for her. Scourge, I think, is missing a couple key things compared to some other builds, and I wanted to go over them in my sort of holy trinity of a healer setup. You're responsible for healing your party, you're responsible for giving boons to your squad, and utility for whatever fight you are at. If your fight, once again, going a Dane example, you probably want to have a healer that's capable of destroying projectiles. Scourge can do that. So that's good, right? But there's more things to go into detail about there. Scourge healing is good. It's just good. If you actually break down the amount of barrier and healing per second, it's a little lower than average. Necromancer healing in the past was pitiful. The amount of barrier that we're working with, though, now, and some of the buffed actual healing, especially from the staff skills that we got, and dagger trait reworks that are actually giving us like good lifesteal on those skills for teammates, mean that it's just good. It works. It's good. If people are taking damage, you will heal them, but it's not exceptional. The barrier allowing for healing in advance is also quite good because it lets you use more of that for one spike of damage. But if it doesn't actually prevent a spike of damage, that's not even worth considering. If people are already low health and not taking damage, you need to heal them, not barrier them. The actual healing per second of the build, the green healing, is below average. When you want to take into account burst healing as well, we're talking healing done in a very short amount of time. Scourge also does not possess anything exceptional there, compared to some other builds like Druid, which is able to cast several heal skills at the same time, or builds like Firebrand, which have access to healing increases and just solid heal skills in general. Even Berserker is capable of just using skills with a very, very, very large healing number that that Scourge pales in comparison to when compared against. Ultimately, this really is not that big of a deal. Scourge has enough healing, and generally, these group encounters are designed with enough damage that you'll want a healer, and a casual group will want two, but not enough damage that those healers are going to have to try for their life to keep DPS alive, because you want heavy damage to be the result of a mistake, and light damage to be the result of fight design, generally. So if you are just walking in with a heal Scourge, none of this is really going to be a major issue, but it is weaker at this than other builds. Next, I wanted to talk about boons. Scourge is able to provide most of the boons that you'd really want a healer to be able to give for a party. Since it's an alacrity healer, we'll cover that first. It's on any barrier application. You have a lot of these, so generally you're fine. It's good at this one. Fury, though, is the first weaker spot. It's reliant on a single skill. It's a utility skill as well, meaning you might not always want to have it on the bar. It's a life force generator. It's Desiccate. So you're happy to have it necessarily, but you might not always have room for it if you have a lot of utility that you need to bring to an encounter. And if you don't have someone else who's able to grant Fury for some reason, that means that you're in a pickle. Now, generally, this isn't an issue. There's a lot of quick DPS builds that are able to provide Fury, so this one doesn't actually come up as a problem that often, but it is something that other heal builds are able to just do automatically that this one has to think about. Protection is on 3 sources. It's on your Sandstorm Shroud, that's your F5. It's also on your Shroud 4 when you've traded Transfusion, and it's on Staff 3, also when trading Transfusion. When you use these, you're going to be able to provide protection to the team, but if you miss any of these, it is possible that it'll fall off, especially if you aren't using the staff. If you're just hitting with Sandstorm Shroud, it is not actually enough to upkeep protection on the group. Regeneration is provided from your Well of Blood. If you dodge, you put a mark on the ground that also does regen. It's just a copy of the Staff 2 mark, which also gives regen. This is generally enough, although it means that you're going to have to hit these skills frequently. If you don't have a staff, it means you might need to dodge for your regen. Vigor comes off of Staff 2 as well, meaning if you've opted to take Torch and Warhorn, you don't have a source of Vigor for your team. Swiftness is another linchpin here. If you take... So there's 3 sets of weapons that Keel Necromancer wants to take. There's Dagger Warhorn, Dagger Torch, and the Staff. If you don't take the Torch, you're suffering from loss of a Might skill. If you don't take Warhorn, you're suffering from the loss of a Swiftness skill. And if you don't take Staff, that's a bunch of Burst Heal, Vigor, Protection, Regen, so on, that's gone as well. So you have to pick one to lose. Most of them will drop the Warhorn right now and take a Relic of Thebe. You have to do one of those, otherwise your group does not have Swiftness, and that feels awful. And Resistance and Resolution are not available. Your build cannot provide them. There are builds that want to have these on them. There are encounters where Resistance is very, very nice to have, but you can't get it. Admittedly, you cleanse conditions quickly, so it's not the worst in the world, but it is possible for a Bladesworn to get weakened and be very, very sad about it when they Dragon Trigger, something like that. That is something to consider. Now for Might. Might specifically is really, really weird on this spec. A lot of healers have a bunch of different Might skills that will all overlap and quickly ramp up to 25 and stay there. Scourge is a little different. So first off, every barrier application gives you 2 Might for 16 seconds. This roughly works out to 16-ish, 18 Might when you start, but just hitting your profession skills, so F1, F3, F5, you will bottom out at 10 Might. So you'll either need other sources of barrier, or you're going to need other sources of might to keep it higher. Just this barrier trait is not enough. Desiccate is a utility skill. It's going to go ahead and grant 8 might for 18 seconds, and it has a 16-second cooldown. With Alacrity, that's a little lower, but it won't overcap twice. It'll just cover its own duration, so you're getting 8 more might. That's going to be 18 is your floor if you've taken Desiccate now. Oppressive Collapse is a torch skill. That's the 5th one. Note that it gives 14 might if your target has 7 conditions or more, which it generally will, for 16 seconds, and its cooldown is 20 seconds. A 20-second cooldown with Alacrity over covering the whole thing is 16 seconds, meaning that if you camp torch all the time, it'll still fall off because the torch has a cast duration. So this might will always fall off, and if you only ever swap like in a way that won't interrupt this cooldown, it'll still fall off, meaning that there will be periods of time where your might falls off if this was the last thing you were relying on. So then you have Blood is Power. Blood is Power will give 5 might for 40 seconds, impressive duration, but it does have a 30-second recharge. It does have a long enough recharge that you can't actually get 2 coverage of this permanently. You can't get 1 though. So if you use the Curses trait line, you'll actually get it to cover twice and count for 10 might over the fight, but it is generally going to be 5. So Scourge can't actually guarantee 25 might to its team. If you use up 2 util slots, you can get there, but generally it's going to rely on part of its might output to be from somebody else, generally the quick DPS player. Most of them are able to help out in this regard, so it doesn't usually come up that much, but this is yet another place where it just doesn't provide as much as some other builds. For some comparison, Druid, Firebrand, Berserker, Berserker especially, all of these builds provide a lot more might. Berserker and Tempest, if might was not capped, could probably hit like 40 and stay there. 40 or higher. Scourge is struggling to hit 25. As for Scourge's group Aegis, it's got 1 application in the form of Serpent Siphon. That's a swap-in utility skill. It gets 20-second cooldown. Ground target, give your subgroup Aegis. Simple. It's effective, it works. It's a relatively low cooldown as far as Aegis skills go, but if you look at that list from earlier, everything with a red circle I put on it is able to do more than 1 application of Aegis in one go. They've got 2 or more different skills that are able to do it. In some cases, it's 3 or more. In Chronomancer's case, it's got a pulsing Aegis field. Firebrand, Willbender are going to be able to do a bunch. Berserker has one of its applications on an even shorter cooldown than Scourge has, so on. So these builds are going to outperform it in terms of just overall number of things you can block, and in terms of flexibility, everything that I've put a blue one onto, all of these ones are able to cast an Aegis skill without having to swap any of their kit. It's either on default healer weapons, or it's part of their profession just in general, or on skills you would never swap away from. So basically everything with a circle on it has a leg up over Scourge in some way when it comes to Aegis specifically. As for stability, Scourge has 2 sources of that. You have access to Trail of Anguish, that's a swap-in utility skill. It gives a stack of stab for 12 seconds, and it's got a 25-second cooldown. And you've got Reaper's Mark, that's your Staff 5 skill. That one gives 3 stacks, they last 8 seconds, and that's on an 18-second cooldown. So 2 sources of stab, it's pretty good. One of them requires you to take a staff, one of them requires you to take a util. It's pretty normal, but if we look at a couple of the other healers that excel in this regard, Catalyst, Berserker, and Renegade are actually capable of maintaining at least one stack of stability permanently. In the case of Catalyst and Renegade, it's actually even higher. Berserker gets more frequent applications. Firebrand and Mirage have much higher on-demand stability output. Just in general, they're able to put out more stacks when it's required. Spectre's stability isn't weapon swap locked at all, so it's more available. It's in its Shroud, and it's on a util skill that it will always take, as opposed to one that needs to be swapped in. Scrapper has 3 different sources of group stability instead of 2, so it's able to be even more flexible in that regard for that as well. And Chronomancer can do this. So, what about kiting? Because a lot of people mentioned that Heal Scourge is a really good heal build for kiting mechanics or kiting away from the group. It has a reputation, really, for being good at this, since it can place shades on the group from far away, and the shades do have support effects, or some sort of effect, far away from the healer. This reputation is unearned. It is straight up false. It is not that good at doing it. No more than any other healer would be. And the biggest reason for this is Sandstorm Shroud. Sandstorm Shroud pulses barrier each second while it's active only around the Scourge player, not the shades. If you are standing here, like this, your barrier, your might, your lackady, and your protection are pulsing around the Scourge over here on the right, far away where your group is standing. Your F5 does literally nothing, and your boons will fall off of your party because you missed a lot of barrier applications doing this. Boon radii are also important. The actual width of the skills that grant support effects. Generally, 360 is the radius you're looking for a good support effect. Some of them are going to be tighter because they're not necessary, like a small heal field that you could like take or leave. But if it's an important boon, you generally want it to be 360 radius for your group. So Manifest Sandshade, just your F1 that puts a shade out, is a 300 radius barrier, so might, cleanse, alacrity, wherever it's cast at. And the Sand Cascade, the F3 of that, is a 180 radius wherever the shades are. That is among the smallest support effects in the game. That is the size of a Tempest's lingering field from their Overload Fire, and notoriously, Staff Tempests, that's the ones that don't have a Warhorn, struggle with might output if the group cannot stack inside that small circle. Garish Pillar, your F4, it creates a Staff 3 wherever you're standing, so that's protection in a 300 radius wherever you happened to be. If you were not on the group, they missed that, or if they weren't stacked correctly. Desiccates the same 300 radius, that's Might and Fury, only around you, 300 radius. If you've used Blood as Power for Might, that only grants it around you in a 240 radius. Nearly all of Scourge's support effects are tighter AoEs than other healers. Just across the board, they're almost always smaller. Recently, a lot of new support effects have gotten experimental with that radius. They've pushed the envelope a little bit. Untamed and Berserker have access to 480 radii on their quickness effects. Bladesworn has a 600 radius alacrity effect. Willbender has a 600 radius alacrity effect. Herald has a 600 pulsing quickness every second as long as it points an arrow left on its upkeep bar. We are not that good at this specifically. If your group needs to spread out for mechanics or just can't stack very well for some reason, that is a drawback that will be felt. But The staff marks are big enough and are targetable, so they feel good to me. Trail of Anguish is a wide enough AoE for the effect it's doing. There's a couple of effects that still do feel good. But none of them are really stand out in a radius sort of aspect. And for utility, Necromancer is passable. It has enough useful tools that it does, have something to bring to fights, but it is not the highest out there. It's not the most standout. There are other things that tend to bring more. Its CC is good, but it is not the highest amount that you can bring, nor is it the fastest. Those generally go to Chronomancer or Druid, who are able to provide more in a short amount of time due to overlapping or instant cast effects, or just having more overall defiance break number attached to the skills. Your Cleanse is good. It's among the best, but when you look at, say, group pulling, you have one option for that, really. It's your Spectral Grasp. 35-second cooldown. It's projectile-based, meaning that it can run into other enemies. While that's occasionally really good for CC on one big target, that means that if you're actually trying to pull a group of enemies together, it's possible that the hands don't go to the one you want it to, or just hit something that you weren't trying to pull first. Projectile destruction you have on Corrosive Poison Cloud, but you can't reflect projectiles, so if you are at a fight that specifically calls for reflex, you don't have anything for that. You have Barrier, you have Revives, but you don't actually have anything that prevents downing from occurring. Say Tempest's Rebound is a really good example of this. There's a couple more skills that'll be coming in the next expansion that are also going to be covering that, like Paragon's Elite Shout, Ritualist's Elite Weapon Spell, and so on. And the build does not have access to Super Speed, Invisibility, Invulnerability, cooldown reduction traits. These are all things that Chronomancer has access to. And basically every healer that I ended up ranking higher than Scourge on that list has more or better things than Scourge did for this, or was stronger in some other aspect, like actual overall healing per second, Boon radius, something like that. Now, Scourge is still good. Do not stop playing it because I made this video. Do not let this be the you should stop playing Scourge video for you. That's not what I'm trying to do here, and I hope you don't. I'm not going to stop playing Scourge. I like it. But it is not on the same level as Druid or Firebrand. Those builds are just stronger if you need more out of a healer because of what you are doing, because your group needs that kind of thing, or because your fight you're playing needs that kind of thing. You're going to need to go towards something like that. It's still very fun. It works well in groups. In basically any normal raid or strike squad, or hell, I'd argue a fractal group could even use it if they wanted to. It works. You can have a good time with this, but it just doesn't happen to be among the most powerful or most versatile healers in the game with the tools it currently has in the state that they're currently in. But if you disagree with me and you still think Scourge is broken powerful, if you think it is crack the game in half good, there are other builds that you should try out, get some look at that are even more powerful. They're able to solve even more problems while doing all the things Scourge can do. Some of them are meta defining. If you're optimizing, they are the healer that you reach for because they do the job the best and are literally harmful in some palpable way because you don't have them, because something else has to switch to cover what you're missing. If you think Scourge is an S tier healer, they are S+. If you think Scourge is the best the game should have to offer, those things are beyond what the game should be giving players. You should probably want them nerfed, and I feel that way as well. Thanks for watching. Scourge is a good healer. There are other healers that are even stronger and potentially too strong. That's the point I wanted to make in that initial video. Hopefully this helps put that into perspective. Have a good day.